In the book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle talks about being present, being in the presence, being in the moment, being in the now. And it's the most powerful state you can get into, other than gratitude. Gratitude is a very powerful state too. Presence is the core and source of everything that we're experiencing right now. And the more that we can become present and aware of the ego or aware of the mind, the more that we are able to create our realities. So there's this thing in our reality, or this thing that I call the 0 point. The 0 point is basically unconditional love. It's everything as one. It's source, it's the grand creator, it's the most high, it's God, it's Allah, it's Jesus, whatever name or label you want to put on it. It's the infinite intelligence. And we can actually get into that space by just being here, now, present, awake, alive. Oftentimes we'll find ourselves daydreaming, and that's our imagination. We are now in the ego. Oftentimes we'll find ourselves in the mind thinking about the past. All right, that is also ego. Imagination is future, and the past is ego. We can only ever do things now. We cannot do things in the future. We cannot do things in the past. However, in the spiritual realm, we can transcend time by imagining the future, and that's why we have things like visualization. All right, and so I can go into my mind right now and I can tap into a future reality. All right, however, I'm tapping into that future reality when? Now. If you look at your clock or you look at your watch, it's only now o'clock. Unfortunately, we have learned 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and we get this association with time and disconnected from source. Time disconnects us from source. Time is a function of ego, and we want to acknowledge and realize this. Time is only a function of this reality. In the spiritual realm, there is no time. And so I'm saying all of that to say this: when it comes to creating your reality or manifesting your reality or stepping into the reality, in the reality that you want, you got to do it in a way where time does not exist. In fact, someone who does this very powerfully and teaches this really powerfully is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Pretty much all of his meditations is about you disappearing where there's no time, there's no space, it just is, and you create from that empty space. Have you ever done a meditation and you disappear? You can't even feel your body. I don't know if you've ever been that deep in a meditation before, but your body will literally disappear. You don't feel your body anymore. You are gone. The ego has disappeared. All right? And now in that space, when you're in that space, you can create your reality. Visualizing in that space, having ideas in that space, tapping into the universe in that space is extremely powerful. Oftentimes we'll find ourselves using imagination to think about the future, using our memory to think about the past. And then whenever we do any of these two activities, we are disconnecting from the self. We are disconnecting from God. We're actually more in the ego mind. And so this is why oftentimes I find it hard to focus on the future too much, because there's so many parallel realities, there's so many alternative realities, there's so many choices, there's so many things that can happen in our reality, and we also have our own will and ability to manifest our reality too. And so usually when I'm creating goals and setting out goals, they're only 90-day goals. They're within like 90-day chunks. What I find when I go over 90 days and I make it like a 1-year goal or anything like that, is like, share, if you want to make God laugh, share with God your goals. And so I found that over and over again. Now that might be different from people who are more leaning towards the more ego-based, right? But I'm more spiritually based. And I think for people who are more spiritually based, having goals like that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. It depends on who you are and the way that you operate. For me, creating long-term goals usually don't work. However, when I have those short-term 90-day chunk goals, it works way better. Plus, when I'm creating my goals, I'm using the power of presence. I'm using the power of now and stepping into presence, and I'm channeling into source. Even with this video that I'm creating right now, I do a sort of little bit of a ritual before the video to make sure that I'm connected in with source and it's not coming from the ego mind. Does that make sense? And so when you disappear and you can let go of the ego function, which you've been taught to use your whole life, is so incredibly powerful. You'll find a lot of peace. You'll find a lot of power, right? Power of now, right? The power of now. And it just creates a little more harmony within your being. You feel more relaxed. And in a way, you actually tap into a confidence that you can't find in the ego. It's a different kind of confidence. It's like it's like a stillness. It's equanimity, right? And so you don't need to have the bravado kind of masculine kind of confidence. It's more of just like a stillness. You're just aware and you're present, and you don't need to show up in a specific way. You just are being. And so when it comes to doing something that you might be nervous about, or it doesn't feel good, or whatever it is, you can actually go back into the presence. You can go back into presence and the now and the beingness, because as soon as you feel nervous, you're actually focused on the worst case scenario, or you're focused on something that may go wrong, or you're focused on something that could potentially hurt you or harm you, right? And that's your imagination, right? That's the ego. The ego wants to go on its own tangent and focus on something that may go wrong, which will create anxiety within the being. Now, I'm not perfect at this. This happens to me all the time. However, I think 90 to 95% of my life is mostly presence. And it takes practice to continually come back to presence. And that's where the gift is at, right? Life is a gift. That's why they call it the present. The present. Why did they call it the present, right? They got past, present, future. And for me, it's like, that's all that actually exists. There is no such thing as future, because there's so many different realities and potentials that can happen on this side. All right. And the past is memory. Okay. Stored information in the brain. And as a collective, it's stored information in the collective of brains, and we'll write stuff down in books, and so it becomes memory that's now within a book. And so all of this stuff is it's memory, but the truth is it just is, right? So and the truth is, you can't read a book. Like when you're reading a book and it's talking about history or his story, right? It's someone's story, someone's memory, someone's perception, someone's belief system, someone's identity, right? Once we're reading that, we can't read it in the past. We can only read it in the now, right? The only way stuff can happen is here and now, okay? And the way to transform our lives is to actually use the power of imagination in the 0 point, right? We're going to step into this presence and just become aware, right? That you are not your mind, you are not your ego, you are not your emotions, you are not your body, right? You are much more powerful than that, and stepping into that awareness. And once you're in your awareness, you're not in your thoughts, you're not in your emotions, or you just become aware of them. Okay, it doesn't mean that they need to go silent. It doesn't mean that they need to disappear. You just need to observe them. You just need to see them. Once you can see them, now you are in presence, or you're in awareness. Once you're in awareness, now you're going to use the imagination from presence, as if you're the puppet controller, right? You're going to use the mind, or use the ego, to now imagine a reality that you would like to create for yourself. And you're doing that with the feeling of presence. You're not feeling as if this thing is in the future, because it's actually not in the future. If you imagine it to be in the future, guess what? You are creating a manifestation of it always being in the future, and the future does not exist. And so when you are imagining it as if it is happening right now, feeling the emotions as if it's happening right now. And as you do that, I'm actually feeling chills right now. As you do that, as you feel it as if it's happening now you are actually creating a reality which is conducive with that imagery, with that emotion that you have. And oftentimes people will visualize and they won't see it visually. I'm not a visual person. I don't see stuff when I'm visualizing, by the way. Okay, I just use my emotions. Okay, I emotionalize what it is that I want. Some people can see it visually. I find it difficult to experience things visually in my eye. I see it sometimes and not all the time. Mostly I'm feeling emotions. So I'm feeling the emotion of it being now, of having the success or growth of the YouTube channel, or growth of this or growth of that, or the relationship or the health or whatever it is, right? The actions I need to take as if it's now. I shouldn't even say as if it's now. It's just now, right? I'm not feeling as if. I'm not acting. It's happening now, right? It's happening right now, right here. I'm experiencing it and it is real. I'm not imagining it as something that's fake or something that could happen. No, this is actually happening to me. I'm actually experiencing it for real, right? I'm not faking it. There's no, this is something that I'm imagining and I'm faking it and I'm, whatever, right? There's no fakeness, anything. It just isness. It's just as if I'm picking up this cup right now and drinking this chamomile tea. That's the way I'm experiencing the visualization or the emotionalization of what it is that I want to create. Presence, now, here. As soon as you are creating this gap between where you are and where you want to be, you are creating this thing called future, which actually doesn't exist in the spiritual realm. When you are manifesting, you are delving into spirituality. You are being spiritual. Spirit, ritual, spirit. You are being spiritual when you are using manifestation, right? You're tapping into the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm does not have time. So do not work with time when it comes to your manifestations. Stop putting time on your goal. Stop putting a time frame on this and that. So, oftentimes people want to manifest money, emergency money. I need money quickly, right? And they struggle to manifest it because you're working against time. You're working with time. However, if you need something urgently, you need to do it now, as if it's happening to you now, because you need it now, right? And so we don't want to work with time when it comes to manifesting. And oftentimes when people use time frames when it comes to manifesting, the ego's like, oh, we can't do it within that time. That's too soon. That's too quick. That's not possible within that time frame. I don't believe I'm in the right space to even manifest that within that time frame. I don't deserve it. All these subconscious patterns come to the surface as soon as you put a time frame on it. Can you really make $10,000 this week? It depends on whether or not you got a business or not, or you know how to manifest that type of money, or you've manifested that type of money before. There's so many things involved in that. Okay, maybe when you stretch it out to 1 year, it's a little bit more realistic to your subconscious mind, or 2 years or 3 years, a little bit more realistic to the subconscious mind, and so it's easier to manifest. Okay, and so you create these constraints when you're using time. However, if it just is, and you just let go and you surrender, now you're in your power, right? You're in the now, right? If you're creating time frames, you're creating attachments to the third dimension, you're in the ego mind, and you're not in spirituality, right? Or spirit ritual, spirit ritual, spiritual. All right. So Just understand you're dealing with spirit and you're doing a ritual when you're doing manifestation. Spiritual. That's what spirituality is, right? You're working with spirit and you're implementing rituals. And I'm going a little bit on a tangent here. This is why I don't believe in doing things like doing specific person manifestations and things like this. Okay, you're dealing with the spiritual realm, we're dealing with karma, and we want to understand that our intention needs to come from the heart space and not from the head space. I want to invite you to learn a little bit more about how to manifest more from the heart instead of the head. My clients are seeing amazing results by doing this and healing their heart. Also, people are just manifesting random amounts of money. Their business is growing. They're starting their business. They're quitting their jobs. You can actually look at my community tab here on YouTube and see some of my testimonials that I've been putting out. Or you can go to alchemyenergyreading.com to see some of my testimonials and apply for your free energy reading and your manifestation diagnosis session. Check out my previous video on why you shouldn't tell yourself your goals, why you shouldn't tell other people your goals, and why you should keep your goals to yourself, and how the ego makes you procrastinate from taking action, and much more. A very, very powerful video. And check out my 3-part series on how to raise your vibration correctly. And remember to keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding, and I'll speak to you soon. Peace.